Jim Kavanaugh has been watching with us. Jim, I've said once tonight that you and I are always linked during stories like this because of acts of violence. And I think all reasonable people are hoping the same thing tonight, and that is that we're not looking at kind of an urban army situation here, a planned retaliatory attack for the gruesome and awful police-involved fatal shootings we have watched play out this week.
Well, that's right, Brian. I think that's a good point. I mean, it's like terrorists. You know, they take on some kind of cause they think allows them to murder people, no matter what the cause, even if the cause has some, solid argument underpinnings like all civil rights issues do. And they twist the cause. They come out and think they can murder people, in this case, maybe police officers. And it's very interesting to hear the chief say they have 4 people they think were involved in this conspiracy. 2 in the car, the black Mercedes we thought was on 35 there. And, the one fellow who's pinned up in the parking garage who may be yelling back and forth with the Dallas PD negotiators, saying he has bombs and saying, more people are going to die and so forth. So, this is a conspiracy now to murder, conspiracy to assassinate, and conspiracy to ambush, uniformed police officers. And we should just point out, I don't know that everybody recalls, but it was just a year ago in June when a fellow in an armored van attacked Dallas Police Headquarters. He shot at Dallas Police Headquarters. They had a big chase. The SWAT team chased him in a van. They shot his van with a .50 caliber rifle in the engine to disable it. He planted the pipe bombs around the police headquarters before he started all the shooting. And that was just a year ago. And Dallas PD SWAT was able to stop him. He was killed in the event. But that was an attack on their police headquarters. So, it's always dangerous being in law enforcement, but our heart's really heavy tonight. Every cop in America, every citizen of goodwill for the Dallas police and the Dart police. This is such an awful, cold-blooded, calculated, murder. It's just murder most foul, to shoot people down with rifles as they're standing in the street protecting the rest of us. Just an awful, awful case.
Yeah, make no mistake, this is the assassination tonight of police officers and the attempted assassination of the wounded. 11 officers have been hit. 4 have been killed in Dallas, Texas. Prior to this news arriving, there were 2 names in the news for the most awful reason, Philando Castile and Anton Sterling, 2 police-involved fatal shootings of black men that were so gruesome, so grievous, so hard to watch, and so illustrative of the conversation that has to be had about policing and people of color in this country, that those 2 names and 2 shootings had prompted an almost spontaneous outpouring, demonstrations in just about every major population center, from New York all the way west to Los Angeles. Well, Dallas was no different tonight, and this was peaceful. We had a correspondent from the Dallas Morning News say she witnessed 1 arrest. I can't imagine there were more than a handful. We saw a large gathering that gathered steam tonight here in New York. People were angry, justifiably so. The President of the United States talked about these 2 shootings when he landed in Poland for a NATO meeting tonight. It was top of mind and the top of every newscast until this. And that is why Jim Kavanaugh was saying, among others, that every peaceful person has to hope that this is not anything larger than it already is. And the conversation that needs to be had can be had after this is over and we understand exactly what it is we're covering tonight. There's still a suspect at large that they know of who is doing some sort of conversing, negotiating with hostage negotiators with the Dallas Police Department. This suspect has made a verbal threat that the end is coming, I think was the quote from the police chief, that there are bombs, explosive devices in the parking garage and perhaps elsewhere in downtown Dallas, Texas, in the Central Business District. The police long ago told everybody to clear out of there. They long ago said we need the streets back for our vehicles. You're not safe down here after 11 police officers were targeted. They pulled over a car on I-35. Turns out they believe it may be tied to this. They have a woman in custody. Turns out they believe she may be tied to this. All along, we are watching social media. We have new video just into us. Again, we're all watching this at the same time, but let's roll it and see what this is.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Madison! Oh, no! Madison, go! Madison, stop! Madison, run! Someone shot! There's a gun! Who got shot? Somebody got shot! Somebody got shot!
Just horrendous, so difficult to watch and listen to that. Clint Van Zandt remains with us. Clint, and before we lose you to the passage of time, if what we know turns out to be correct, we have one remaining suspect with a firearm or firearms who's been part of this team who has brought down these officers, who is claiming that the end is coming, who is claiming that there are explosive devices throughout downtown Dallas. How on earth, if you're on the Dallas PD, do you communicate with that person? We know now, because the police chief has said it publicly, he has asked for plans. How are you going to end this? Obviously, that means ending his life, at least among the options.
There's an officer down.
Yeah, and Brian, as you know from your firefighting experience and having been on the scene on various things like this, we've got a guy, he says he's going to hurt, he's going to kill people. Obviously, you're going to take him at his word right now. So our best case scenario, what I did for a living in the FBI, is we'll use hostage negotiators. We'll try to talk him out. We'll try to minimize what he's done. We'll try to give him a forum where he can come out and talk to the media and make a case. We'll try to build him up as an important person, and he'll come out and get to be that important person. We believe the police know where he's at. The police chief says he's shooting and talking. Well, if bullets are flying, we ought to have a pretty good idea where he is. And Brian, in the meantime, the tactical team will be looking at two things: an emergency assault plan and a deliberate assault plan. The deliberate plan said, okay, we take about a half an hour, we figure out how we're going to get in the building. Are we going to use gas? Are we going to use snipers? Are we going to use an assault team to go in and neutralize that person? Where an emergency assault plan means we just get up to the scene, let's go do something right now, and everybody hits it. But we've got the threat that you suggested of bombs, so we have to consider the bombs there. You got to consider, could there be more suspects, booby traps? But the police may say, well, let's just hold back and let's just lob gas in if it's a closed location and see if we can drive him out that way. So they will try to do the least minimally intrusive way to neutralize the shooter they can without exposing police officers and the public to it. But in the meantime, Jim Kavanaugh and I have negotiated together at scenes before, Brian, and we would be working working very hard to try to hook this guy. Just like a fisherman goes out and tries to hook a trout, we psychologically try to hook that guy and try to reel him in. About 85% of the time we're able to do it, but there's a lot of cards stacked in the wrong side of this guy's deck that he may well think he wants to die. If he tries to force that, the police are going to be there and they will accommodate this, but at least they have to keep him contained so that gunfire hopefully is not going anywhere out on the street where other civilians and police could get injured.
Clint Van Zandt, veteran of the FBI, a veteran profiler, one of the people we turn to, sadly, because we cover mass shootings in this country far too often.